Okay, good morning. Let's go ahead and start on our mat. You can find a comfortable seated spot that works for you. I'm going to have my phone here to keep track of the time. Today's class is going to be a yin focused class. So we're going to hold our postures for several minutes with each one. So yin yoga is for those who took my class last month, it was also yin focused, and I got a lot of positive feedback for that. So the reason why we would hold a posture for several minutes is it allows us to go deeper and to really stretch that connective tissue that we don't always get a chance to do in a class that has more continuous movement in it. Now, we're not going to hold Warrior 2 for 3 minutes. This class is mostly going to be on the floor. So it will be a chance for you to release into each position and see how that feels for your body. Again, remember, if it hurts, don't do it. Yoga should support you, not hurt you. So let's go ahead and find this comfortable spot. We're going to ground ourselves for a few moments before we start our first posture. So just if you feel comfortable, I invite you to close your eyes. You can also just lower your gaze or just kind of zone out into the universe. And place your hands on your knees. You can keep them down for grounding. You can place them up so the palms are facing towards the sky to receive. Either way works for this purpose. And let's drop our shoulders down and back and bring that belly button towards your spine. So sometimes when we sit, we have a tendency to raise as an effort to straighten our back. We lift our rib cage out, and let's keep that rib cage knitted into each other. So we've got our belly button towards our spine, our shoulders down and back. And let's just find the natural movement of our breath. And just notice your breath. Use your mind to focus in on how your breath is moving in and out of your body. Notice as it moves in, where does the breath go? Sure, it goes into your lungs, but sort of visualize it filling up your entire body. And as you breathe out, visualize it all moving out of your body. Sorry, do not disturb this. Sorry, all. So continue focusing on your breath as I turn my phone on Do Not Disturb. And throughout this practice, I want you to continue bringing your mind back to your breath. We're going to hold our postures for several minutes, but you're going to continue breathing. And if you keep your mind focused on that movement of your breath in and out of your body, I find, especially in yin yoga, that it helps me settle my mind. Even as I hold a pose for several minutes, my mind does not wander for some reason. It's kind of just settles into the position that I'm in. Now that's how my body works and how my mind works. It may not exactly be how yours does, but it's just sort of an idea to give you an example of how we can use our breath to settle into these long poses. So now let's go ahead and think about a reason why we've come to our mat, any sort of intention for being here. Why did you show up today? Why did you decide to dedicate this hour to yourself? And express, sort of dedicate your practice to that intention, that reason for being here. Okay, and now let's go ahead and move onto our hands and our knees. And we're going to start in tabletop and move into child's pose. So from tabletop, the way I like to get into child's pose, I like to push my big toes together. So like my big toes are touching each other. And then I walk my hands back so that my butt touches my heels. And from here, we're going to walk our hands forward until we can drop our forehead onto the floor. And sometimes we have a little bit of extra sort of belly that the world has given us. And so kind of just scoot it out of the way or squish it into the middle so that you can move down into this posture. And I give you a couple of options. You can keep your arms extended, or you can just drop your elbows to the floor and try either way that you want to. When you keep your arms extended, you're going to be more engaged. If you drop your elbows down, maybe you'll be more sort of relaxed into the posture. But you can use your hands, either if your hands are touching the floor by themselves or if your elbows are down, you can use both your hands and your elbows to push your butt closer to your heels. And then we'll stay here for about 3 minutes. If you need to move or modulate this posture at any time, go ahead and do that. We'll just settle here into this posture. And while you're here, find your breath. And sometimes if this posture is too hard to hold, you can always place a pillow or a blanket in between your butt and your heels to sort of give yourself a little bit of a lift that maybe makes it a little bit more accessible. And from here, go ahead and bring those palms to the floor to sort of push yourself back up into tabletop. And we'll now do some cat-cows, add a little bit of motion in between our poses. There may be another movement that your body is craving. You may want to do downward dog or something that your body is like, you know what, I need to do a little bit of counter movement for that pose. And then once you are ready for some more stillness, I want you to take from tabletop, take your right arm all the way up towards the sky. And then we're going to thread the needles. So run your right arm in between your legs and your left hand. Drop that right shoulder to the floor. And now your hips may have scooted over to the left. So see if you can realign them so that they are directly above your knees. And you can add a little pressure here. You can press your right shoulder into the floor. It kind of twists your body around. It's ever so slight movement. You can't even really see it. And you can keep your palm, your left palm right in front of your face, or you can walk it forward off the top of your mat. You can even walk it over towards the right corner of your mat for a little bit of an extra stretch. But find some expression of this posture that you can hold for 3 minutes. And like I said before, if you decide midway that this expression is not working for you, then you can find a different expression of the posture. Remember that breath again. If you forgot about it, if you're holding your breath, bring your focus and your attention back to the breath. And now walk if you've extended your arm, walk your hand back so your palm is in front of your face. And lift your body back up, send that right arm out to the side, just the way you started, and come back to tabletop. And now we'll do the other side, again, for another 3 minutes. So send that left arm up, out towards the sky, And then thread that needle, drop the left shoulder onto the floor. And here's where you figure out how you want to express this, how you want to stay for 3 minutes. You can push your left shoulder into the ground to give yourself more of a twist. Keep that palm in front of you. Walk it off towards the top of the mat. And then send those hips back over to the left so they're above your knees. And we'll find some stillness here as we let our body sort of rest into this posture. All right, now go ahead and walk that right palm back in front of your face. Use it to push your body up. Send that left arm up towards the sky beside you and come back to tabletop. Now you can do some cat-cow again. Any other movement that your body wants, just listen to your body. My calves are a little bit tight. I'm doing a little bit of a downward dog for myself. And when you're ready, come back to tabletop. We're going to go back into child's pose, toes, big toes together. Push your butt back towards your heels. Walk your hands forward. Drop your head to the floor. And we're going to do a stretch now. So from here, I want you to walk your hands, both hands, towards the right. Maybe one of them or both of them now is off the mat. Maybe probably one of them is off the mat. Maybe the other one is still on the mat. And drop that left hip closer to the floor because it probably popped up a little bit. So just sort of square it with your right hip. And we'll stay here for about 3 minutes as well. And I want you to feel this stretch all the way from your left fingertips to your left hip. So that's sort of the expression that I'm looking for you. And then just release into it. We'll go ahead and walk yourself back to center. Push yourself into that child's pose where you use your hands to push your butt closer to your heel. Now we'll go ahead and walk over to the other side. So from child's pose, walk your hands over towards the left side of the mat, maybe off the mat. And if you need to take any adjustments or movements in between going from left to right, feel free to go ahead and do that. And then find stillness over on the left side. Let's come back to center. And come up into tabletop and then take any movement your body wants. And then when you're ready, come down onto your belly. We're going to place our right cheek on the floor and bring your arms down beside your body, your hands around your hips with the palms facing up. And we'll just stay here for a minute. If you can't keep your face turned like this, your neck turned like this for a whole minute, don't do it, but find some way that you can lay on your belly that works for your neck. All right, from here, bring both of your hands beside your armpits, palms facing down, and just push yourself into a cobra. And bring both of your elbows in front of you. We're going to stay here in Sphinx pose for about 2 minutes. Elbows below your shoulders. Your feet can be together or a little bit apart. See if you can engage your core and tighten your butt. It's not completely necessary because we also want you to just sort of release into the posture. So, and from here, you can also engage a little bit by using your hands, pull your hands towards you, and it sends your chest out a little bit. Give yourself a little bit of an extra back bend. And then find an expression of the posture that you can hold for a minute or two. Let's try 2. And see what more you can release into this posture. I'd like you to keep your shoulders down and back. I don't want your shoulders to crunch up to your ears, but other than that, see what you can release. How can you go deeper into this posture? What more can you release? It gives you a bigger back bend. And your gaze is just beyond your fingertips or somewhere else that works better for you. Go ahead and slowly bring your torso back down to the ground. This time, place your left cheek on the floor, and your arms down beside your body. And we'll stay here for a minute. And bring those palms by your armpits again. I love our palms in yin yoga. It helps us to easily get up. And from tabletop, we're going to come into, well, actually, no, just give yourself a little bit of movement first. Whatever you want. And when you're ready, come into downward facing dog with me. And from downward facing dog, bring that left foot forward in between your hands. Drop your back knee to the floor. And you can stay with your toes tucked for a little bit of extra stretch on your toes, or you can untuck. Either way, I want you to add that stretch here in the front of your left leg. We'll stay here for 1 minute. And if you've got blocks, it might be easier to place your hands on those blocks. I'll show you how to do that. If you've got blocks, and if you have blocks, then you can get into the posture a little bit deeper. Or you can do it with your fingertips, with your hands on your fingertips, with your, or stretch up somehow. One thing I don't want you to do is make fists. The fists can hurt your hands long term. All right, and now we can send that right leg back, and you can either go into downward facing dog and bring it up, or just from here, bring it up. Your left foot forward in between your hands. Again, you can use blocks if you want, and add a deeper stretch. Release those hips into this posture to deepen your stretch. Right, so don't hold your hips, don't engage your hips, just release your hips. And go ahead and send those hips backwards, so you give yourself a runner stretch. And then give a little bit of movement, so forward and back, and forward and back. And we didn't do that on the other side, so let's switch and do that. So right foot forward, forward, and give yourself that runner stretch. And then rock forward and back, and forward and back. We're going to come back into tabletop, back into downward facing dog. Pedal out those feet. Find some stillness in downward facing dog. And then we're going to come into pigeon. So bring your right knee up towards your right elbow, and then drop it onto the ground gently. Keep your right heel close to the body. Drop those hips down. And take a little back bend if you want. Wee, flying. Come forward. Down onto your elbows. We're going to stay here for about 2 minutes. And actually, I think we'll do 3 minutes here. And you can stay here on your elbows. You can place both of your hands together to create a little pillow for your head, or you can just drop your head. Sometimes I like to just drop my forehead onto the floor, and then wrap my hands around the top of my head. And sometimes our hips, our right hip might pop up. So see if you can lower it so it's even with the left hip in distance to the ground. We'll stay here. And you may find that you need to change your expression. So go up on your elbows or go back down onto the floor during this. That's fine. Just find stillness in between that adjustment. And while you're here, connect back in with your breath. If you find your mind wandering, bring your mind back to that focus on that, visualizing your breath moving in and out of your body. Also a good reminder to breathe. Just like before, release into this posture. So if you're holding something, release it. And push your body up, tuck those back toes, and then your right leg back into downward facing dog. And take some movement, whatever your body needs. And when you're ready, meet me back in downward facing dog. And we'll bring our left knee forward, right behind our left elbow, and then gently place that leg on the floor. Untuck your back toe, drop your hips down, bring your elbows down to the floor. And then find an expression you can hold for 2 to 3 minutes. Keep that heel close to your body. And again, check in on those hips. Your left hip may have popped up. Bring it back down so it is about the same distance off the ground as your right hip. That will also help deepen the stretch of your IT band. And connect back in with your breath. Notice your breath moving in and out of your body. And the Hatha yoga that we practice, most common in the United States with the movement, even yin is part of that tradition. It's movement with breath. It's a form of meditation. It prepares you for meditation. And so even when we're here still in an expression, we're still It's a type of movement that goes with a focus on our breath, that prepares us for meditation, that prepares us for the day. Go ahead and use those palms to push yourself back up. Tuck your back toe, send yourself back into downward facing dog. And we'll come back down into tabletop. So cat, cow. I don't think you can ever do enough cat, cow. And when you're ready for the next posture, come back into tabletop. And this is going to be just a very brief, maybe we'll do it for a minute, posture to help stretch your wrist. So with our hands spread out in front of us, down on the ground, tabletop, slowly begin to move your wrists so that your hands, your finger mat. So now your thumb is pointing off the top of towards the top of your mat, and your rest of your four fingers are like off to the side. And you can stay here for a minute, or you can keep turning towards the back until maybe your fingers are even pointing towards your knees. Just find some expression of that posture that you can hold for the next minute. And if at any time during that minute you're like, I can't do this anymore, then just slowly, very slowly start to turn the hand until you find a place that feels better for you. If you struggle with sort of carpal tunnel challenges, or anyone that's ever nursed a baby, if you remember how you had that like nursing hand challenge where it's like you basically develop carpal tunnel nursing, like this is a kind of an exercise that can help stretch out that. I know a lot of us spend a lot of time sitting at the desk on our keyboards. And just as slowly as we got into this, we're going to slowly untwist and bring our hands back to its regular sort of position. Bring your knees together and sit down on your heels and just bring your the backs of your hands together. So you're sitting up and the backs of your hands are pressed together, and then just shake them out. Sort of a supportive way to shake out the stretch you just did. Okay, and then maybe you shake them out a little bit more. Now we're going to do a similar kind of, oh, wow, I think this kind of feels terrible, but maybe a little bit good stretch for our feet. So I want you from tabletop, tuck your toes, your knees are together, tuck your toes, and then walk yourself back so that you are now sitting on your tucked toes. You're sitting on your heels on top of your tucked toes. But we're going to stay here for a minute. Some people may not be able to do this for a minute. I might not be able to do this for a minute, but we're going to just stay here as long as our body wants to. I need to do a little adjusting. And sometimes I try to tell a story because it's it helps to distract from it. Okay, my toes are done. Feel free to keep staying there if yours are not. I just started physical therapy yesterday. Apparently, I've developed tendonitis in my left foot from maybe too much salsa dancing. What? Never too much salsa dancing. But yeah, they've told me that when it gets to when the pain gets to 4 to 6, I'm supposed to stop doing it. And I was like, interesting. I grew up dancing. Stop in the middle of class. So, or when my foot hurt too much. So, I'm modeling what I'm supposed to do. So let's go ahead and come onto our a seated position. We're going to come into butterfly. And so bring your bottoms of your feet together, bend your knees, hold on to your ankles, send your knees out to the walls beside you, shoulders down and back. Again, the rib cage knitted in together, elbows towards your belly button. This is a nice engaged expression of this posture. You can stay here for about 3 minutes, or you can begin to walk forward. And this is another great use of a block, where if you walk yourself forward with a flat back until you can't anymore, and if you have a block nearby, you can use that block to, thank you. You can use the block to put your head on the block to hold the posture. Sometimes I like to even put the block on top of my feet because it's a little bit more accessible. And you can have your feet close in. You can also have them a little bit further out. Sometimes that makes it a little bit more accessible. But see if you can find any sort of expression of this posture you can hold for 3 minutes, which we've already got about a minute in. Hands on the floor. You can just stay here. And some people think when they're in this posture that they should really be focused on the, getting all the way down. But I think that most of the focus should be on it's a hip opener. And so your focus is really on stretching those hips. And then let's go ahead and walk ourselves back up. And we'll come back down onto your back, or not back onto your back, onto your back. Bring both of your knees into your chest, wrap your arms around your shins. Then straighten your left leg. I'll just place it onto the ground. Send your right leg up toward the ceiling. Clasp your hands behind your right hamstring and use your hands to pull the leg towards your body and use the strength of your leg to push your leg away from your body. So you're creating tension, and we'll just stay here for a minute. And then go ahead and switch. So straighten out that right leg on the ground, left leg up towards the ceiling, clasp your hands behind the hamstring, and then create that tension where the arms are pulling the leg towards you and the leg is pushing itself away. Bring that leg back down to the ground. Bring your knees into your chest, and then send both knees over to the right. Drop them down onto the ground, off to the right. We're going to stay here for a minute. I'm going to keep your arms in T shape. Bring them to goal post, or send your left arm out to the side and place your right hand on the outside of your left thigh, just for a little bit of stability and a little extra stretch. Come back to center and send those legs over to the other side. Come back to center, give your legs one more squeeze, and then bring both legs to the floor. Heels as wide as the mat, arms beside you, palms facing up. We'll stay here for a moment or two for our final resting pose for Shavasana. See if you can check back in with your breath. Use your breath to fill your entire body up with your breath. As you breathe in, and send it all out. Empty your body of your breath. And continue to focus on your breath. Your mind wants to wander to what happens next. Again, bring it back like an audience member as it focuses on your breath, moving in and out of your body. Bring those knees back into your chest and roll over onto your side. Connect back in with that intention or reason why you showed up. And express some gratitude for making your mat. Good job, Deanna. And use your front hand to just gently push yourself up into a seated pose. We'll close out back in a seated pose. You can close your eyes or lower your gaze again, as we did when we started. Perhaps your hands are pointed up towards the sky. Your palms are here to receive all that you've done over the past hour to support yourself. We come together monthly to care for ourselves and also to care for those that we care about. This is a donation-based class, and I ask that you please give generously to Lambda Legal, which is a national organization that has filed suit and is fighting all of those anti-transgender laws that have been enacted. I care a lot about that organization and all that they're working towards. If you want to give locally, I recommend that you give to Smile, SMYAL. They are a youth serving organization in DC that helps to create a welcoming space for queer and trans kids, both at their office and in schools that they work with. And before we go, I want to thank each one of you for being here today, especially Langston. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you.